Sneakers and Cleats.
I don't play for money.
Let's get to the Spurs real quick before we get out of here. So the Spurs lost last night, 129-115, after they led by 12 at halftime. Kind of a story of two halves, which seems to be the story of the season, story of last season for the Spurs. It seems like we talk about the same thing every single time we talk about the Spurs. Great for 24 minutes, 36 minutes, but cannot put an entire 48 together. Mitch Johnson said as much last night after the game. Once again, out-physicaled by a Zach Edey, by a Jaren Jackson for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I just don't understand how they get something like this fixed, because it's every single game for the last 39 games and last season, we can't put a full 48 together.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Coach Pop used to say over the past, it was like 2 years ago and maybe a little bit of last season. It's just like, well, we forget that it's a 48-minute game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a bad start to a third quarter, and they admitted that right after the game. So I just it's consistency for me. They're not doing anything consistently, and
consistently blowing leads.
Right. Well, they're doing that maybe, but it was maybe about 10 games or so. So maybe back before Christmas or a little around that time, I know Chris Paul was just like, look, we just got to do this to where it's like we got to learn how to win these types of games.
I think it was after the Knicks game on Christmas.
Right. So it's just, it's the same thing again, where it's just like they're right there. They just don't know how to like close the deal yet. So once they learn how to do that, man, look out. This team will be really good. There's maybe just one or two things that is missing from this team, pieces, and everybody can debate what those are. And I think last night too, Wemby had a double-double, but it was only 13 of 12,
Well, he was 4 of 16 from the floor. I think he was 2 of 10 from 3. I mean,
so bad shooting
offensively, he did not play well. He played 37 minutes yesterday, which I didn't really register until I looked at the box score. Charles Bassey played 11 minutes. Zach Collins didn't touch the floor. It seems to me that they need – remember the Last Dance documentary where Dennis Rodman came in? Or no, it was Charles Oakley was like, you know what? They mess with my guy. I'm going to mess with them. Yeah, they have the enforcer.
Right.
That's what it kind of seems like this team is missing. A center, a Jonas Valanciunas, just a Yusuf Nurkic. One of those guys that'll come in and be like, don't F with him, F with me.
Right. So Chris Paul picked up a foul like on an inbounds play last night. I think it was this first half or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whistled for a foul real quick, and ball went back to Memphis and stuff. But then he went down the floor the next drive and picked up a defensive foul by driving into somebody. He brings that chippiness, but nobody else is following him with that. I would like to see somebody else like, hey, I can be a thorn in that side. Jeremy Sohan does that, I think, a little bit.
I think they missed that when he's not on the floor.
But they need I want other guys to play with that kind of edge too.
And if we're talking about the deadline, which is, I believe, is 3 weeks from now, February 2nd, if I'm getting that right, I think they need that. I think they need somebody who can come in and pick up a hard foul on somebody and just be like, you know what, we're not getting out physical, because Zach Edey, Jaren Jackson just push Wemby around.
Right.
As much as Wemby doesn't want to be pushed around, as much as weight as he has put on this offseason, he's still not that enforcing type. That's why he is shooting fall-away 20-foot jump shots in the mid-range. That's why he's taking 30-footers from the outside. He can make them. They're not his best shot, but he's getting pushed out that far.
Right.
So, Bob?
What I saw last night was a team that the basketball IQ on the defensive side just wasn't there. You could see when the Grizzlies actually started running their crisply running their offense, the Spurs had no answer for it. They kept getting brushed off on screens, and they couldn't match up, and you saw all kinds of open dunks on cuts to the basket and stuff. It was like the Grizzlies went to another level, and the Spurs just don't have that gear yet.
It's almost like the Spurs have like ADD. Like they lose interest or they lose focus for 12 minutes a game. You don't know when that 12 minutes is going to happen, but there's this first 6 minutes of the third quarter last night and the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter last night was just like, what are we doing?
Right. Yeah.
It seems like that happens game by game, and it stinks because this is a team that I think all of us think can win more. You're up by 12 last night at halftime on the Grizzlies, which is a really good young team. I think they're second in the West right now. Mm-hmm. And you should be able to at least compete down the stretch. But when I think it was wasn't it like 113, 111, 115, 111, and then the Grizzlies go on a 12-2 run or whatever it was, and game's over.
Yeah. And Bob, to your point, it's like the players talked about that and touched on that too, is, Memphis is a team that likes to get out and run and get in transition. They put up a bunch of shots. I think it was
103 shots
right,
last night.
Which was 14 more than the Spurs put up or whatever. And that may not seem like much, but I guess over the course of a season, it equates into, so many extra possessions and everything. It just happens to where it's just, it's not there. Those good stretches, they have plenty of them, but then it's those bad stretches that are just crucial to where it's just like that. Those can't happen.
Yeah, there's two guys on the floor last night that I would love for the Spurs to trade for. Luke Kennard is someone that the Spurs need. A guy like Luke Kennard who can just sit outside and pop threes up.
All of his points came from behind the arc.
Yeah, 5 of 9 from 3 last night. I mean, you need somebody like that, and the Spurs don't have anyone like that. And then a guy like Zach Edey. Obviously, you're not going to get Zach Edey, but a Jonas Valanciunas, a Yusuf Nurkic, somebody who can enforce.
Right. And we were talking about Sohan. I know he's hurt right now, but with him coming back into the rotation at some point, again, it's just they have so many guys in that 2, 3, 4 range to where it's just they're log jammed there. So it's just like, I know they're trying to figure out a rotation, but it's hard to when you have so many guys.
Hey, Matt, Texas